to show you how I make my famous pound cakes a little festive for the holidays. To start, I do have my pound cake recipe ebook available. In that book are 12 cake recipes and 8 glaze recipes, and that can be found in my link tree or in the description. And in that recipe book, I do have a link to an unlisted video where I show you how I make my pound cakes, and I always freeze them. And before I glaze them, I remove them from the freezer and let them sit out at room temperature for at least 4 hours so they can completely thaw before I glaze them. And once the cake is thawed, I like to unwrap it and place it on a cutting board. And I have some of my vanilla glaze here. And again, this recipe is in my pound cake recipe ebook. And I like to cover the entire cake with the glaze. If you don't want to cover the entire cake, you could just drizzle it on here. But especially for this technique, I like to cover the entire cake with this white glaze. So what I like to do is take my spoon and just take some of the extra glaze that's in the middle and around the edges and lift it up just to make sure the entire thing is covered. And then I get these plastic cake domes at a restaurant supply store. I can try to find them and link them in the description for you. And I like to take some of that extra glaze that's down at the bottom and in the center and just put that on the cake tray. That way, when I put the cake on top of it, it's not going to slide around. And then I want to get a spatula underneath one side and then lift that up so I can easily transfer that over to the plastic tray. And I want to let this sit out at room temperature uncovered for about an hour so that glaze can crust. Now I have some more of this vanilla glaze and I want to put it in two separate containers because I want to dye them different colors. And I'm doing a little bit of red in one and a little bit of green in the other. And I just want to mix that together. Now, this glaze is still a little too thick because I want to drizzle that on top of the cake. So I'm just adding a teeny bit of milk at a time. You saw I just did a couple drops and that still looks like it's a little too thick. So I just want to add a little bit more milk. So I just want it to be able to drip down the cake without being too runny or too thick. And once I have it to the correct consistency, I'm going to do the same thing for the red. Just add a little bit of milk at a time and stir it until I get it to the right consistency. Now this cake has been sitting out for over an hour and that icing has crusted, and now I can pour this on top without it blending into the white. So I'm just getting a really tiny spoon here and spooning this on and going in a zigzag pattern around the entire cake. And once I have the green done, then I'm going to get the red, and I'm trying to put the red drops in between the green lines so the red and the green aren't overlapping too much. And I'm just going to let this sit out at room temperature for about 10 minutes before I take the lid and cover that up. And there it is. So look how pretty this is. It's great for the holidays. And I also do my pound cake tester boxes. So there are a lot of things that you could do with these pound cakes. I do have a video showing you how I make the pound cake tester boxes. That is in my link tree as well. And make sure you follow or subscribe for more cake decorating tips.